I think I'd be worrying less about courage and more about medical attention. Here's a relook at the McFarlane Toys Twisted Land of Oz, the Cowardly Lion. The McFarlane Monster Series Twisted Land of Oz is a highly detailed limited edition release from McFarlane Toys based on the classic novel, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. It features twisted alternate interpretations of the classic characters. Put him up. Come on, man. The man's put up enough. Before we get a closer look at the Twisted Land of Oz, the Cowardly Lion, let's take, of course, the tape measure and see how tall the figure stands. I've got him currently on his display stand just because that's the best to kind of keep him stable. And you want to keep this lion stable. The figure is going to stand, based at least with the display stand, about 7 inches in height, or roughly about 18 centimeters tall. Even though I know our journey has us moving forward, let's move backwards, though, and have a look at the previous figures we've already had a look at from the Twisted Land of Oz. The video we had done just prior to, of course, the Cowardly Lion involved, of course, the Tin Man. Prior to that, we also had a look at the Scarecrow. It's a disastrous Scarecrow. And prior to, of course, to that, we also looked at Dorothy Gale. Like with the others, this line does come included with a display stand. The stand, if you have all of these, by the way, whoops, that's not the sound we really want to be making. The stand, did I just break the peg? Oh no, I just broke the peg. Here I was saying that I was going to be doing a job so far of not breaking anything. The stand, if you have multiples of these, of course you can connect them together and find yourself one giant long path that, of course, would lead you to the wizard. If we had, like, for example, Dorothy Gale's, let's not break Dorothy Gale's peg right now. Oh, that's a bummer that broke. Yeah, if you had yourself Dorothy, for example, you'd follow the Yellow Brick Road and it would interweave. I mean, again, you could probably have it this way also as well. Yeah. Disappointing, though, that unfortunately that had to break, but oh, now we know exactly which one belongs to the Cowardly Lion. It's the one that has the broken peg. Still, I've got, though, one peg that's going to work, and on the bottom of the lion's feet, he actually has 2 peg holes, so we're going to be okay for that. Oh, that's a shame. That is definitely a shame. But yet, you're looking at really a figure that's got 20-plus-year-old plastic. Something you know eventually is going to break. Even though you really don't want to go into reviews like this with the expectation that something will break, something always ends up doing that, though. Let's move that off to the side. The accessories that come include with the Cowardly Lion. He gets himself this gnarly-looking bear trap. I don't know what kind of bears this trap is going to be trapping, but it definitely does look gnarly. It does have a little pedal piece here that will snap shut, obviously, if something's stepping on that. You could really take the lion's foot and also put that on there as well, being that it also does have a chain and a little handle ring on the end. I actually like to display the Cowardly Lion, or when I was displaying at least the figures with them, I'd like to have him displayed holding this like he's holding it like a weapon. And again, you can't open and close it. Judging by, though, the fact that the individual teeth have some blood on it, it looks like the trap has been used. Maybe not recently, but you bet your bottom dollar it has been used. The figure does also come included with his entrails. These little, I say little, these intestinal pieces that actually are attached to his body. Now, they come as a separate piece, and they're actually made of a very gummy kind of rubbery plastic. You may already notice that there's a peg on one side and a peg on the other. If you look inside the cavity of the lion, this is as close of a line as I'd ever really want to get. You can see, like, first of all, his rib cage is shattered. It's broken completely open. How this lion even manages to go anywhere is beyond me. But there is a hole right here that you should really be able to take the intestines, and that just plugs in place. And then if you look at his hand, if I can actually spin the hand around, there's a hole right here. So you could take this so it looks like he's actually holding his own entrails. That's pretty gruesome. It's a hard thing to pull off just because it's really using rubbery plastic, but that's basically what it would look like. The Cowardly Lion is just holding his own as he's sort of moving away from the people attacking him. Poor guy. The other thing that also can serve too is that just above that hole, there's another little slot area here because he has all these extra weapons. No, they're not weapons, unfortunately, that he has to hold. These are all weapons that are going to be impaled into his body. You can pick a part on this line and choose where you want to start stuffing stuff. He has a hole on the side of his leg, for example. He's got a few little slots on the back of his body. And again, he has one right there. So if you want to take yourself, for example, the spear you can just lodge right into his cavity, just like that. You can put it right there if you want. You can also take the spear and lodge it on the side of his leg. You can do really whatever you want with the lion. Also, there's a couple of holes here in the back, too. You can lodge the spear in there as well. There are some areas that work a little bit better than others, and just with the way that the sculpting is designed, you may look at a part and think it's a slot, and you realize, no, it's just kind of embedded into his skin. He does also come included with only really the handle and the hilt of the sword. The sword can just, again, slide in there. You can slide it in here as well if you want. Or, again, you can also put it into his leg. If you put it in his leg, though, obviously it's going to be sitting a little looser. It probably would be better just to have that slit in the inside like that. And then he also comes included with like this other version of sword, which, again, you can just lodge in. The hard part, really, honestly, is just finding where these slots would actually be. You think that there's an area, and then you go to put something against it, and you realize, no, that's not part of his body. Or it's not the part, at least, that's supposed to have something lodged into it. Again, I think there's a section right here. No, there's not. There's one right up here, though. You can lodge that in place. No. There we go. Is it right here? Anyways, you get the idea. There's going to be basically areas on the figure's body where you'd be able to lodge things into. Again, you got yourself the spear. The spear could go into the side of his leg if you want. I've seen some pictures online of the Cowardly Lion where people have had the spear sort of stuck on the side of his leg. You can choose to do that. I actually prefer to have the spear stuck right up in there. So it looks like, I don't know if he fell on top of the spear. I mean, it doesn't really look much, like, it doesn't make really much sense when you have the spear kind of in one way and then sort out the other. It actually looks like it should be one piece. But some cool looking gnarly features. Love the look of the lion. Let's go ahead and just kind of take these all out right now. Don't want the poor creature suffering any more than he already has. Getting, though, a closer look at the Cowardly Lion. Now, looking at the way that he is right now, you can probably see why the Cowardly Lion is my favorite. A lot of time and sculpt and paint went into sculpting this creature. You can tell, though, that he's suffering. I don't know how easy it would be to put this animal out of his misery, but the fact that he has most of his fur ripped away like this, his face really is about the only thing that has remained somewhat intact. On the side of his face, you can see that there are a few flesh wounds. He's got a few gashes there on the top of his head. Just such a cool looking figure. This, just by looking at him, you can tell that this is a lion that's going to go out. And he's going to go out taking at everybody else around him before he takes his final breaths. The figure does actually have some decent levels of posability, too, that we'll kind of talk about more in a moment. He's got some armor. The armor doesn't... if you're looking at really the way that he looks, there's no way that the armor has done any good of a job of defending him. He's got a few little areas covering his arms. He's got a few plates there on the front of his chest. He's actually lost one on this side. I would imagine he probably would have had one on both sides. He's also got a gauntlet here on the sides of his arm. Some cool skirting, too, I think is really neat on this figure. This is all soft plastic. He's got himself like a little medallion there, a little buckle on the front. Not really sure what exactly that is, but really well sculpted and detailed. He's got a few pouches on the back. I'm not sure what the story is behind this. Obviously, with the Twisted Land of Oz figures, each one of them would have also come included with a story. You would have started with Dorothy. You would have started with Dorothy Gale, and then you would have just gone through. I don't know if I'm doing this in the correct order. I'm doing it kind of in the order of how Dorothy meets the characters in the film. I would imagine they probably would have the exact same chapter sequence as well. Again, you've got some visible scarring. I mean, all this bone sticking on the back of his body makes kind of look like Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th Part 7. All these gashes, all these wounds make for just a fantastic looking figure. The only thing I'll tell you that I don't really love about him is the way that his arm is posed. Now, this arm also does have some posability as well, but being that this is the hand that's going to be holding his intestines, I'm not as bothered by the fact that this only does as much as it does. What you can really only do with this arm is move it back and forth, and you can rotate his hand back and forth. This is really the arm that I don't like as much. Not that it moves back like this, but that his hand can't really do all that much. You can't really turn it all the way down. And having it up like this always looks like he's sort of tending to his own wounds. So again, it looks like the lion's sort of crawling out of battle. I wish that you could really have done something a little bit more than this. I mean, the sculpt looks incredible on this, but you can't really do all that much when it comes to the figure's hands. This hand, again, when it comes to the articulation, well, I guess, you know what, we'll start with the head first. The head is going to be actually on a ball joint. Can you believe that? A figure that's 20 plus years old does actually have a ball joint in his possession. It's strange that they decide to give him a ball joint, and yet every other figure up to this point for the Twisted Land of Oz have only been really relegated to single swivels. I mean, even Dorothy Gale, like when we looked at Dorothy couldn't do really anything other than what she's doing right now. So yeah, it's nice to see that the figure does actually have some more mobility in the tops of his head. His arms do move forward and back. You got to really be careful, though, when you move this arm forward, because you don't want to hit this and pop this off his torso. Both arms actually do move forward and back. Not much, though. I mean, it goes to be expected. I mean, these figures aren't really going to have a whole lot of posable parts. Swivels in the arms. Swivel in the arm here. Hands rotate. I would want to really have said all the way around. This hand does really the better job of swiveling all the way around, where you can kind of have him holding the trails that way. This arm, unfortunately, seems to really get stuck right around the section of the gauntlet. So when it gets to this point, you can't really turn it any further than that. So it always sort of looks like he's tending to his wounds. The figure does also have a waist swivel. Nothing really, though, for the lower legs. Really nice sculpting, though, for his paws. And again, the sculpting of his legs as well. A lot of, like, injuries there. You can see, even, like, if I move the skirting up, how much ripped away flesh the lion has on his body. Then if you look on the back of his body, he does also have his mangled tail. This is so cool. I love the fact that they've actually sculpted in the bone underneath the tail. So yeah, it also does have a wire too, by the way. So there's a few little air holes, or the suggestion of holes, where you can kind of bend the tail. Not by much, though. Cowardly Lion for me is my favorite figure from the Twisted Land of Oz. Yes, by that, I'm a little disappointed that I had to unfortunately break the peg, but I've got the other peg. Let's wish that things go a little bit better for that. Pegs like this are small in size. Obviously, you're going to want to be careful, treading cautiously when it comes to attaching figures like this, because again, like figures as old as they are, getting a figure like this, first of all, out of the packaging, or even if this is, say, the first time you've gotten this figure, you want to, again, be careful that when you're getting him out, you're attaching him onto a display stand, and you're not potentially breaking a peg like this guy just broke a peg. I wonder if I could maybe even go in there. Can I pull the peg out? Maybe there might be a way that I can salvage this. If I could pull the peg out, there might be a way that I can actually glue it back onto the base. It's a disappointment, unfortunately, though, that my favorite figure from the Twisted Land of Oz happened to have a broken peg. My fault alone. But I will say, though, it's still my favorite figure. We are going to also be looking at, while we're still sticking with critters, looking at Toto in the upcoming review. Toto isn't going to look at all like a dog. This looks at least a little bit more like a cat, and what a cat he is. I mean, just the fact that the amount of details that they put into the figure, that he also has posability, where you would expect like a figure of this age wouldn't really ever have it. Cowardly Lion, if you get the chance and you only want to pick up a couple of these, make sure that Cowardly Lion is the top of your picking up list. Now, if you don't like the idea of having the Cowardly Lion holding the bear trap, one suggestion you could do is also have it latched onto the front of his leg. That little hole, and not so little of a hole, but is a perfect place to actually put the teeth in there from the bear trap, so it looks like the Cowardly Lion has been trapped in more ways than one. The thing that's unfortunately about this creature is that he goes through a lot of suffering. You can see the suffering through the sculpting, and there's a lot of cool things that you can also do with the figure. Being that he has all these extra holes, these air holes on his body, you can find places to place all the swords and stuff that he comes included with. I did end up finding, by the way, that extra hole. It's right by the side of his shoulder. You probably can see it right now. What I chose to leave off, just because he's been through enough, is the spear. In fact, actually, usually when I had this guy displayed, the spear, just by the length of it, I think it's just too much. It's overkill. Literally, it's overkill. So I chose just usually to leave the spear off. You can choose to have it attached to the figure if you want, but I think by now it's a little redundant. You know, beating a dead horse, this is clubbing and killing a lion. We don't need to have any more gruesomeness. One thing, unfortunately, though, by having this guy now out on display, is I broke the peg. I tried to get in there, though, with a pair of pliers, see if I could fish out the peg. No such luck. So at least the lion is able to hold his own. Thank goodness for the display stand there. I think it's also a cool touch that McFarlane toys include display stands that can interlock with one another. Now, of course, we have met all the characters along the way on our way to see the wizard. One thing that's left still to do before we look at the wizard is look at Toto. And, you know, the lion, at least I could say, looks like a lion. When you see Toto, Toto isn't that pretty little dog that we saw in the film. What do you guys think of the Cowardly Lion? Let me know down below in the comment section. Now, based at least on what we've seen so far with Dorothy, then we looked at the Scarecrow, then the Tin Man, now the Cowardly Lion. Which, is it safe to say you could guess what your favorite figure is right now? I mean, do you have to maybe wait to see what Toto's going to look like and maybe then see the Wiz? Yes, we're not going to be seeing the Flying Monkeys. The Flying Monkeys are going for crazy, stupid money online. But what's your favorite figure that we've looked at so far from the McFarlane Toys Twisted Land of Oz? Which is, again, a figure line that came out 2003. 2003. 22 years ago. Poor brittle plastic. Generally, though, the plastic is pretty good. It just so happens to be that was a tiny little strand of plastic, and the guy behind the camera put too much pressure on it. If you guys did enjoy this video, do us all again. Throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more? So, yeah, I hope so. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, turn on the bell, and, of course, come back. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.